In Lesson 5, you'll see how to import the styles that were created in Lesson 4, and then we'll touch on the topics of tables and frames. Open a new document, and then we'll select the File tab and choose File Save As. Adjust the location where you want to save this document, and we'll name this document Lesson 5 Class News. And then we can see by the title bar that we're working on a document titled Lesson 5 Class News. The first thing we're going to do in this document is we're going to import all of those styles you went to the trouble of creating back in Lesson 4. Over in the Styles and Formatting sidebar, you'll find the New Style from Selection tool. So we'll select that, and then we'll choose Load Styles, and that will open the Load Styles dialog box. We could load styles from existing templates, but in this case, we're going to load styles from a file. But we want to make sure that we load all the styles from this document file. So we'll just toggle all of these options on. Then we'll select From File, and then in the Open dialog box, we'll select my Lesson 4 document, and then select Open. Now the sidebar should show all of our paragraph styles that we imported, and also it should show the page styles that we imported. Before we do anything else, let's save this version of the Lesson 5 document. Then, with a cursor somewhere at the beginning of the document, I'm going to double click on the My First Page style, and you'll see we have a header and a text body area. The header we imported from Lesson 4, and so it still has that text. We'll edit that now. I'm going to enter a field here in this title area, but first I'm going to go to File, Properties, and then in the File Properties dialog box, I'll choose the Description tab, and then I'll enter the title, Lesson 5 Class News, and select OK. And now, with the cursor in this title area of the document, I'll select the Insert tab, then I'll select Field Title. And that enters the title property, in this case Lesson 5 News, in that position. Notice that that text is all gray background. And if I try to select that text, if I try to edit it with my cursor, you'll notice I cannot do that because that's a field. The only way to edit that field is to go back to the File Properties and edit it there. Next, you'll see another example of inserting a field, but this time in the body of the text. With a cursor in the body area, I'm going to double-click on my text body to make sure that that's the paragraph style in use. Then I'm going to type some words. I'll type Class News 4, and then I'll put a space, but now before I hit the Enter key, I'm going to go again to the Insert tab. I'm going to say Field and then insert a date. And you notice that the background of the date is gray, indicating that that's inserted text, and I cannot edit it there. What I can do, however, I can double click on that inserted date, and that will open up the Edit Fields dialog box. And under Date, I have two choices. I can enter a fixed date, or I can enter the current date. And that will change the date every time I open this document and save it again. If I want to have the date float, and that is update every time I open the document, I'll use the regular date. If I want to have the date inserted and not changed, then I'll use the fixed option. There's a whole list of possible date formats that we can use. For this example, I'll select this full date option that includes the day, the date, and the year. and then I'll say OK, and you'll see the date that this document was created. When we created our custom list of paragraph styles, we did not create any paragraph style for heading type paragraphs. So let's use one of the standard paragraph styles here. With a cursor still in this first line where it says Class News, I'm going to go to the Home tab, and from the paragraph style drop-down list, I'm going to select Heading 1. And you notice that paragraph style comes with a particular font and a size and bold. I'll press the Enter key to enter a new paragraph, but I would like to make sure that this paragraph is using the My Text Body paragraph style. So over to the sidebar, I'll double-click on My Text Body paragraph, and then I'll enter some text, and there's some suggested text in the Lesson 5 document for you to use. There's quite a variety of paragraph styles available in LibreOffice, and we're going to use another one of the standard paragraph styles here for this paragraph that says Introduction to Word Processing. Now I'll go to the sidebar where I'm in the Styles and Formatting sidebar with the Paragraph Styles option selected, and down at the bottom I'll select this little arrow and I'll find Chapter Styles, and you'll see two types of styles there in Chapter Styles. With the cursor placed in the Introduction to Word Processing paragraph, I'm going to double-click on the Title Chapter style, and you'll see that that makes it very large, and it also aligns it to the center. And now that I'm through using the special chapter styles, I'll reset my sidebar styles list for paragraphs back to custom styles. Next, we're going to add a table to this document, and tables are very useful when you want to align sections of text both horizontally and vertically. A lot of beginners tend to try to do this with columns, but columns are the wrong solution. Columns are useful when you're making a newsletter or a newspaper and you want the text to flow from one column to the next. But if you try to use a column when you want to have side-by-side items line up, you'll have a lot of trouble. You'll have an editing nightmare, as a matter of fact. So let's go ahead and insert a table into this document. One of the options in the Home tab is Insert Table. So I'll select that, and then I'll select More Options to open the Insert Table dialog box. I can name the table, so I'm going to name this table Schedule. And then I'll have two columns, and I'll start with 3 rows. I have an option to turn the heading on, which I will do, and then I can choose the style. And there are a number of different table styles that you can use. In this example, we'll use the default style, and then we'll select Insert. So I'm going to add some text to the table. I'll select the first cell in the table by clicking the text cursor there, and then I'll type the word Session. Now, you have to be careful when you're working in tables. If I hit the Enter key at this point, you'll notice that it adds another paragraph to the Session cell, and I didn't want to do that. So I'm going to use my old friend Control-Z to undo that. Now, to move to the next cell, I don't hit the Enter key, but I press the Tab key. And then I can enter text in the next cell. And when I've finished entering my text in that cell, I'll press the Tab key again, and the text cursor will automatically jump to the next cell in the table. So I'll go ahead and fill out some more information in this table. I've gone ahead and added some text to some of the cells in the table. Now my cursor is in the last cell of my table, and I want to continue adding cells. So all I have to do is press the Tab key, and another row is added to the table. Notice that the text in this cell did not fit in one line, but that the system automatically added another line to that cell in the table, and it automatically used the word wrap feature to make all of that one paragraph. Also notice that if I place the text cursor in any one of the cells in the document, that there's a special paragraph style that's automatically used. Because I added a heading row when I was creating this table, the paragraph format there is table heading. However, in other cells, the paragraph format will be table contents. Now, it's possible to either edit those paragraph styles or to create custom paragraph styles to be used in tables. Now, there's a lot of empty room in this cell, and what I can do is I could make that column be smaller and let this column be wider. And I can do that manually. If I carefully move the cursor until it's right on that vertical line, the cursor will change to a double arrow. And when that double arrow cursor is there, I can hold the left mouse button down and I can drag that divider line in the table. So I can manually edit the cell sizes just by clicking and dragging. There's a better way to more precisely control the size of cells in tables. With the text cursor somewhere in the table, I'm going to right-click, and then in the drop-down context menu, I'm going to select Table Properties, and that will open the Table Properties dialog box. In the Table Properties dialog box, I'm going to set the alignment to center, and then I can change the width, and I'll make the width be 6 inches. Then I'll select the Columns tab, and then I'll set the width of column 1 to exactly 1 inch. When I enter a value of 1 inch for column 1, the system automatically calculates column 2 to be 5 inches, and that's to fit the width of 6 inches that I specified in the Table tab here. I'll select the Background tab, and I'll select Table, and I'll set the color to be light yellow. And then I'll select the Borders tab, and in the Border tab I have a number of options for setting borders in tables. I can set the outer border and all inner lines, and I think I'll do that. And then I'll say OK, see what the result is. And there it is. Tables are a very powerful addition to documents when you're doing word processing. As a matter of fact, the tables in a word processing document have many of the characteristics of spreadsheets. This example table here was created completely within the context of a document. And you'll notice that there are calculations here where the cost per item is multiplied by the quantity, and that total cost was automatically generated in the table, and the same as the grand total. So practice up on tables a little bit. They're very powerful additions to your word processing capabilities. The next topic we will cover in this lesson is frames. Frames are like little documents that you can insert into a main document, and frames can contain the same kinds of things the main document contains. However, the main document body text flows around frames. Frames are sometimes used as sidebars to provide separate but related text or illustrations. Frames can contain text, graphic images, or tables. Frames are typically anchored to a paragraph in the main document, and then they float with a paragraph. That means that if the text before a frame is edited and this causes the paragraph to move, the anchored frame will move with it. The wrap function can be used to control how text flows around a frame. I've gone ahead and added some text to this document as noted in Lesson 5. I'll place a text cursor in this paragraph that says Frames Added to List of Useful Tools. Then with the Home tab selected, I'll go to the Set Paragraph Style option, and in the drop-down list, I'll select the Heading 1 Paragraph Style. With the cursor at the end of the Heading 1 paragraph, I'll go to the menu bar and I'll select Insert, Frame, Frame. And that will open up the Frame dialog box. The Frame dialog box, I'll set the width to 2.5, and I'll set the height to at least 1.5. And I want to set the anchor for this frame to the paragraph. You notice you can anchor frames to pages, to paragraphs, to individual characters, or you can anchor them as a character. In this example, we'll select to paragraph as the option. We'll set the horizontal position to right, and then we'll set the wrap. And we'll set the wrap to have the text wrap before the frame. Then with the Borders tab selected, we'll select Set All 4 Borders, and we can adjust the line style and width for the borders. Just for fun, let's set the width at 0.35, and then we can choose a shadow style for this frame. Let's choose the Cast the Shadow to Bottom Right option. Then we'll select the Area tab, and we'll set the color to light yellow 4 and say OK. And there is the new frame. Put the text cursor in the new frame, and let's enter some text. When we're through entering our text, we simply click the cursor outside of the frame. If we very carefully select a point just on the border of that frame, the frame itself will be the selected object. And when an object is selected, it will have these grab points. Also, you should notice that the Object tab is automatically selected, and there are a number of tools available that will operate on objects. When the frame object is selected, notice the grab points. You can drag those grab points and resize the frame manually. When you position the cursor over a selected object, you'll see a 4-way arrow, and that means you can move that or drag that object by holding the left mouse button and then moving to a new location. Since the object is still selected, we can use the Object tab tools to do things like center the object or right justify it. We can also change the style of wrapping, and we can also change the border color, the borders, the area color, all of the above. So it's very easy to modify a frame once it's in place. If you want complete control of the frame modifications, rather than just dragging things around, you can right-click on the frame and then select the Properties option, and this reopens the Frame Properties dialog box, and there you can enter or change any of the properties of the frame. Here are some points to remember from Lesson 5. Page, paragraph, and other styles can be imported into a new document from existing documents, and that's what we did in this lesson. We imported our Lesson 4 styles into Lesson 5. Tables provide an easy way to format rows and columns of entries, and tables in LibreOffice Writer provide a number of functions found in a spreadsheet software, including format cells to display currency or dates, and inserting calculation formulas in cells. Columns should never be used in documents where side-by-side alignment of text is required. Tables are preferred over columns for this application. Frames can be inserted into the body of a document, and frames can contain their own text or graphics. Frames can be set to make the body text wrap around the frame, and frames can have border lines, background fills, and shadows. Once again, I suggest that once you have completed this lesson, you start a brand new document and you go through the step-by-step instructions once again. And if you really want to get the best value from these lessons, you'll repeat each lesson 2 or 3 times.